Over the centuries, Anatolia, which constitutes modern-day Turkey, has been home to countless civilizations, each with its unique language and culture. Unfortunately, many of these languages are now extinct, and their stories are often overlooked. In this video, we will explore some of the lost languages of Turkey, which attest to the rich history of the country. Cappadocia is one of the most touristic areas in Turkey, and it is among the top cultural heritage sites in the world. Aside from its famous views and balloon rides, this historic region hosts hundreds of ancient rock-cut churches and underground cities that are remaining from the Roman and Byzantine eras. The Cappadocian Greek dialect was native to the area and was spoken by the local Greek community, which had its roots dating back to the Byzantine era, all the way to the early years of Christianity. As the Seljuk Turks started settling in Anatolia after defeating the Byzantines in the Battle of Manzikert in 1071, the Cappadocia region gradually shifted from Byzantine to Seljuk rule. However, the local Greek community stayed put and flourished in the area. For the next 900 years, Cappadocia was ruled by the Seljuk Turks and later on the Ottoman Turks. As a result, Cappadocian Greek was heavily influenced by the Turkish language. Cappadocian Greek was primarily a spoken language, and therefore there are almost no written records of it, which ultimately makes it harder to study the dialect today. In official and religious documents, classic literary Greek was used by the Greeks in Cappadocia, who knew how to read and write, such as merchants and priests. The last speakers of Cappadocian Greek were forced to leave to mainland Greece in 1923 as a result of the population exchange agreement between Turkey and Greece. Since they quickly shifted to modern Greek language upon arriving in Greece, this already endangered language saw a severe decline in speakers. As of 2023, it has been exactly 100 years since Cappadocian Greek was last spoken in this region. Today, Cappadocian Greek is a dead language in Turkey. The same was presumed for Greece. However, in 2005, linguists discovered a few villages in mainland Greece where a few hundred people who are the descendants of the Cappadocian Greeks still spoke the Cappadocian Greek dialect. Today there are less than 2,800 speakers of Cappadocian Greek in Greece, many of whom know no more than basic phrases. Although there are some efforts to revive the language, the number of Cappadocian speakers decreases year by year.
Να έρθει ο παππούς σας και τα μέτρα άρχισαν να πουλάνε τα τεπερίδα του. Πήγανε, το πλάτσανε, πήγανε στο τίτους ο Βερέκ, ο Άγιος Κωνσταντίνος ελληνικά. Εκεί πήραν αραπάδα, φόρτωσαν τα τεπερίδα τους, πήγανε και έφτασαν στο Ουλούγουσλα.
Ubykh was a Northwest Caucasian language spoken by the Ubykh people, who were one of the main tribes of the Circassians. The Circassians were an ethnic group native to the Caucasus region. Following the Circassian genocide that was perpetrated by the Russian Empire in the 19th century, most of the surviving Circassians sought refuge in the Ottoman Empire in modern-day Turkey. Alongside other Circassian tribes that were expelled from their homeland, the Ubykh people settled in various parts of Turkey, primarily around a few villages and the west coast of the country. However, due to their low population, they quickly assimilated and adopted the Turkish language. The Ubykh language became extinct when the last speaker, Tevfik Esenç, died in 1992. Although some people of Ubykh descent in Western Turkey know some words from the Ubykh language, Tevfik Esenç was the last person who could speak it fluently on a native level. Today he is buried in the village of Hacı Osman in Western Turkey, where he was raised. The Turkish text on his tombstone translates to Tevfik Esenç, prayer for his soul. Born in 1906, died in 1992. the last Ubykh who could write and speak the Ubykh language, who immortalized the Ubykh language. In his youth, Mr. Assange worked with a handful of linguists from all around the world to keep records and document the language as much as possible. The famous French linguist Georges Dumézil, who worked with Tevfik Assange, said the following about him. He is well aware that this language will soon be lost. He knows the importance of saving Ubykh. This is the masterpiece of Tevfik's life. It honors him to document the funeral of his ancestors' language. Thanks to Mr. Assange, today we have materials about the Ubykh language, such as a dictionary, grammar records, old folk stories, and such. The Ubykh language had 3 vowels and 80 consonants, one of the highest number of consonants in any language. There are dozens of audio recordings of the Ubykh language narrated by Tevfik Assange in the 1970s. His final words in Ubykh in the last audio recording translate to: Please forgive me if I made any mistakes. From now on, you are the Ubykh language. I told everything I know to you. Teach it to the world. May God give you all blessings and beauty. This is where the Ubykh language comes to an end.
كاغن هذا خشدان عميان كاغن عفوتنا معروف أخذوتن أكنن أزن فجعل شبالة خدقة أيضا خنج شبالة بسالة خدن إنوقة عميان كرن أكنن فجد خدقيت غكاغا فشوتلا سيد الشفان.
Karamanli Turkish, also known as Karamanlidika, is a dialect of the Turkish language that was native to Central Anatolia. What makes this language very unique is that it was spoken by the Karamanli people, or Karamanlides, who were Turkish-speaking Greeks who had lived in the Karaman region of what is now modern-day central Turkey. The origin of the Karamanlides is disputed. Greek historians claim that they were the old Byzantine Greeks that were Turkified, whereas Turkish historians claim that they were the descendants of the Christian Turkic soldiers who had served in the Byzantine army in the early 11th century. However, it is widely accepted that they were simply Byzantine Greeks who were linguistically Turkified after the Seljuk Turks arrived to Anatolia. During the Ottoman Empire, Ottoman Turkish was written in Arabic script for almost 6 centuries, yet the Karamanlides used the Greek alphabet to write Turkish. In 1923, just like the Cappadocian Greeks, the Karamanlides were also forced to immigrate to mainland Greece due to the population exchange agreement between Turkey and Greece. But unlike the Cappadocian Greeks, the Karamanlides did not speak any Greek. Their native language was Turkish. Although the Karamanlides were ethnic Orthodox Greeks, they faced a lot of discrimination upon settling in Greece simply because they only spoke Turkish.
Δάσκαλε, άκουλες. Αυτά που μας έκαναν αυτήν εδώ, περισσότερο το χωριό μας, χιλιόδεντρο, τσάκωνη, ήταν χειρότερα από τους Τούρκους.
Τι λες?
Με κατάλαβες? Πού τολμούσε το κοριτσάκι να πάει να πάρει νερό το βραδάκι. Ένα βιοτρόπον είχαμε, δίναμε εγώ μόνο. Οι άντρες με τα όπλα μας κυνήγουσαν να μας πιάσουν. Εγώ στο σχολείο πήγαινα.
The Karamanli Turkish saw a severe decline in speakers with the local Karamanlides leaving Anatolia. Although the spoken version was preserved to some extent, the written version of the Karamanli Turkish ceased to exist when the Republic of Turkey adopted the Latin alphabet in 1928. Today there are no official records about the number of Karamanli Turkish speakers. However, it is assumed that the number must be in a few hundreds, if not a dozens in Greece.
Babam Çukurlu, anam Daklıklı.
Nece konuşuyordunuz siz aranızda?
Biz Rumca bilmiyorduk, Türkçe konuşuyorduk.
Anladım. Anan baban Rumca öğrendiler mi?
Hiç burada öğrendiler. Orada hiç bilmiyorlardı.
Orada hiç bilmiyorlardı.
Orada namazı da bilmiyorduk biz. Yattım sağıma, kalktım soluma diyorduk.
Babanın duasını söyle bakalım bir.
Babam sabahına kalkıyordu.
Mlahso was a central Neo-Aramaic language that was spoken in southwest Turkey and northern Syria by the Syriac Orthodox Christians. Aramaic is a Semitic language which originated among the Aramaean people in ancient Mesopotamia. What makes this language historically quite important is that it is known to be the native language of Jesus. Aramaic and its dialects were widely used as the language of liturgy in the Church of East. Today, centuries later, varieties and dialects of the Aramaic language are still spoken in parts of Turkey, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. The language of Mlahso was one of the dialects of Aramaic. In the 20th century, Mlahso was spoken only in two isolated Christian villages in the province of Diyarbakır in southeast Turkey. However, unlike the other Aramaic dialects, Mlahso could not survive the centuries, as the last speaker, Ibrahim Hanna, died in the city of Qamishli in Syria in 1998.
Vele kiliso qimlan ariqlan azilan lemlahso. إلنا بيرحونا أمرشموني أسرع حيل متحاق دقريسو إميلا إلين إلاف قومون كلاات صحراء خوسي كولولا بسترينيو إكريسو بسترينيو قومون أوزينا قامة تزين لوموتيلين.
While technically Hertevin is not really extinct, since there are only 4 people who speak this language, I thought it's worth mentioning in this video. Just like the Mlahso language, Hertevin is also a dialect of Aramaic. Hertevin was spoken for centuries up until the 1970s by the Chaldean Christians, who had inhabited the village of Hertevin in the province of Siirt in southeast Turkey. The Chaldeans are also an important archaic Christian group that are native to the Mesopotamia region. During the Ottoman Empire, almost all of the surrounding villages of Hertevin were inhabited by the Kurds and Armenians, so the Hertevin language was little spoken and never spread. Since most of the Chaldeans immigrated to Europe in the last few decades, the spoken Hertevin language is not well preserved, and the written form is thought to be already extinct. Today, the village of Hertevin is known by its Turkish name Ekindüzü, and it is inhabited by Muslim Kurds. The last 4 documented speakers of Hertevin are in fact not Chaldean Christians, but Kurds who learned the language from their Chaldean friends prior to their migration to Europe. It is not documented where there remain any speakers of Hertevin outside of Turkey. The language is not actively taught in any school, and sadly soon it is expected to become fully extinct.
هذا حاشولي سبيده قملي زيلي أمن كي بيكب أودن بيتي زيلي ودل النادو كتب بيتي كفش